Hi, folks. This is John with the Wingman 115 channel. Thank you so much for checking in tonight. We have a very special guest with us, Mr. Matt Graham. But first, let me introduce Andy. You all know him and love him. He's a special co-host here on these live shows on the channel. Andy, take it away, brother.
Most of you guys know me already. Me and John do a lot on each other's channels. We bounce a lot of ideas off each other. Have the Innerbark Outdoors channel, youtube.com/Innerbark Outdoors. And I am the designer of the tops to Homewood Field Knife. And that is pretty much it for me.
Oh, you have a new knife coming out pretty soon.
Yeah, but I don't want to talk about that too much. It's a little premature.
Okay.
We're like 3 weeks out. So.
See, a little sneak peek. We'll give you a little taste. And we have Mr. Matt Graham. He resides in southern Utah. He's the author of Epic Survival. He's been featured on Dude, You're Screwed and Dual Survival. He's also currently on Nat Geo's hit show Live Free or Die. And he's currently running the Pacific Crest Trail somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. Mr. Matt Graham, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, John. I really appreciate it. It's good to be here. And yeah, it was awesome meeting you last time at Tops, and yeah, good energy, good vibe, and I'm excited to share some stuff with whatever you want to talk about. Just don't throw me for any big leaps.
Well, we did a promo video earlier, and I asked some of the viewers to post up some questions. I took maybe 6 or 7 of the top questions that we had, and I thought we would throw them out there. First one comes from a gentleman named Cedric in Gear and Outdoors. His is, if I could ask Matt, what EDC do you carry when you're in civilization, and in what climates do you feel are the most challenging to be stuck in, whether it be desert, ice, mountains, or jungle, if you had to survive in those regions?
Yes, as far as like a EDC in the city, God, it's a tough one. I'm so out of place when I'm in the city. If something went down there, I'd probably be the last one to stand. I personally, I try to blend in. It's funny because I've been a hunter-gatherer for so long that I started walking in the cities in my breechcloth and realized that was quite inappropriate. So for me, my EDC is just grabbing a cotton shirt and trying to look as normal as possible, and a pocket knife or something that's not too conspicuous, and yeah, that's about it. Now, as far as environments, that's a tough one. If I was to be dropped off without anything and really unprepared, cold environments, to me are really challenging, because the way I look at, being dropped out, for example, in high mountains in the middle of winter time, like, human beings really aren't meant to be up there. So you got 1 point against you because you're fighting nature, and you're in the wrong place at basically the wrong time. So it's I feel like that's a really tough thing. When I look at environments, to me, it's all about timing. Certain places are better in the spring, certain places better in the summer and fall. So it's figuring out those subtle migration patterns. I definitely, I've done a lot of shooting in jungle environments, but I have to say, like, they look really pretty on camera, but everything just wants to eat you and take you down there, and you don't really see that because I'm there for a week, and then I leave and I have malaria or some tropical disease, and that's something that people don't realize. They just see how beautiful and awesome it was during that week, and then they wonder why you're sick in Africa. Well, it was because you're in the jungles in the Amazon the week before. So I would say that's a tough one.
Plus, probably it's got to be hard to maintain your equipment when you're down in those jungle regions like that. Your knives and the camera gear and all this stuff that needs to do a show. It's just got to be crazy how to maintain all that.
Absolutely. There's days where I feel like, man, I really worked my butt off today to come through with having a full day of survival and taking care of, my needs, but most of the time I'm like, wow, this crew is just, they're really going at it, and as soon as that sun goes down, they gotta do more work and clean up that equipment, take care of their stuff, and it's unbelievable.
I got a question from a gentleman by the name of James Feeney. He follows along on the YouTube channel, and his question is, other than your knife, what's your favorite piece of kit?
When I first started doing like these long primitive hunter-gatherer style walkabouts, for me, I was really trying to simplify to the point where it was so simple I felt truly connected with the land. And I stopped bringing a steel knife for a long time, and I'd either make a stone knife while I was out there, or I would bring a stone knife that I'd made previously. So the thing that became the most important part of my kit, honestly, was just actually I'm sitting against a piece of cloth here, but like just carrying a piece of cloth out of a thin wool or thin cotton that's like about a 5 by 5 foot dimensions, and then I would roll it up, and sometimes whatever I'd collect or find, traps or whatever, I'd roll up in the corner of that, corner to corner, and then I would tie that around my waist. And for me, that became super versatile because all of a sudden now I had something I could use at nighttime to gather up debris and duff and make a bed and gather food, shelter, and it was like I almost found the cloth to be more versatile than even a cook pot or a knife.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that, because it's obviously it can be used as a shelter material as well. I mean, you could use it in the sun, put it over your head or across your face in a sandstorm.
Absolutely, and it keeps the bugs off you, everything. Yeah, it's a very important tool, definitely.
Well, a lot of us in this time, all the techno geeks, we're always thinking about pieces of gear like this, but we don't think about the most simplistic, breaking it down piece of kit. That's pretty cool that you said that. With that, my question is, what sort of wilderness first aid kit do you use? Because obviously, if you're out there with sharp objects, especially in the Southwest, in Utah, there's cactus, there's things like that. There's going to be things that cut you, sting you, stab you, poke you, all that stuff.
Yeah.
What sort of first aid kit do you carry with you?
On my own, I personally I just risk it. I feel maybe I'm overconfident, but generally I don't bring anything. If I feel like there might be some risk involved, or I have a friend with me, like I'll always bring a 2-inch roll of athletic tape, full width, super sticky, because you can do a lot with that. You can tape poultices on there if you have wounds from different plants. You can tape up a twisted ankle, which happens quite a bit, with folks that I take out. And also there's sometimes I'll throw in gauze in that kit as well. That's like the bare bones, very basic kit. And then when I'm guiding professionally with permits, I have full kit, that weighs 3 or 4 pounds. That has everything. SAM splint, things, all kinds of meds in there, different things of that sort. So yeah, that's kind of it on the kit.
Andy, do you have any counter questions in there?
Yeah, well, I was going to ask, like, what do you take when you take someone else? Because I know our Ranger kits, like for our vehicles, the darn things weigh like 35 pounds because of all the oxygen tanks in there. And then when we go out into the wilderness, we go minimal, but we still have epinephrine and everything like that. Do you carry any of the higher-end medications out there?
Nothing higher end in meds. We do carry EpiPens though. SAM splint, we carry things to check heart rate, blood pressure, things of that sort. Our kits, the last time I had full survival kit or med kit was when I worked with Boulder Outdoor Survival School, and our kit was in the 3 to 4, sometimes 5 pound range of different assortments.
We were
even with that kit, honestly, the thing that was the go-to most of the time was the tape, and then occasionally I'd issue some mild painkillers and an EpiPen occasionally. So
we were talking about altitude sickness earlier, and apparently a lot of the climbers here, what they tend to do is take Viagra or some sort of thing like that because it helps with the altitude sickness.
Yeah.
Which also, once I started doing that, apparently there was a larger case of, unplanned babies and things like that on the mountain. So, kind of interesting, really.
I never heard of Viagra used for altitude sickness. But not saying that I'm going to try that.
Yeah,
because I'm in that.
Well, it's a vasodilator, so it helps a lot.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad we didn't carry that when we shot up in the high mountain range.
You can take the blue pill or you can take the jelly bean. You know, which one do you want to? I got a question here about trail running. Right now, you're trail running the PCT.
I am. Yeah, it's amazing. I came back. It's been 21 years. I first ran the length of California to the last town in California, Sayad Valley, when I was 23 years old. So coming back now, 21 years later, I'm going to finish it up to Canada, and we're kind of making a little docu-adventure out of it. So I'll be teaching along the way, lightweight backpacking skills, stuff about edible plants, mixing some survival, different ways of traveling, running light, and she's acting as support for this. So she's actually driving around to points, bringing me batteries, camera equipment, and she's also doing a concert tour along the way. She's a singer, so it's this cool adventure that's just like weaving in and out. So we're pretty excited about it.
So for folks watching this video, I made it real easy for you, and I'll bring it up again at the end of the video. But Matt has a GoFundMe page for it, so you can be part of the adventure as well. I have a link in the YouTube video in the description below for folks. Made it real easy, and I also put a link to Matt and Sarah's Facebook page, On the Trail with Matt Graham and Sarah B. I have that link, and I also have a link to your YouTube channel, so I made it super simple, easy peasy. So if folks want to be able to help out, view, watch along, it's all in the video description below. A question still about trail running. A lot of folks want to know, how did you get in shape for this one? I know that you're running sandals.
Yeah.
And, what do you do for like foot maintenance? Because I do Tough Mudders, and it's hard. It's hard on, I'm an old guy, so the heel spurs are starting to hit. Tendonitis is starting to hit me. How do you deal with those runner's injury and like keeping your toe from stubbing your toes and stuff on rocks and debris on the trail?
Well, I mean, I'd have to go back, a long way, because I first started trail running when I moved to the Sierra Mountains to Yosemite Valley when I was 17 years old, and I went there primarily to take up climbing and just be in a national park at a young age. And then I started trail running. I started running up to Half Dome and back 2 or 3 times a week, which from where I lived was 20-mile round trip run with 4,500 feet of climbing. And at that time, I felt disconnected in a lot of typical running shoes. So I kept trying to strip everything down and figure out what I could run in that felt more barefoot feel at that time. So I was running in Nike made this shoe that was kind of like a sock trainer, which it was only out for a year because people were just abusing it and getting injured. So once that shoe got discontinued, Teva made their first like trail runner sandal. So I'm like, let's try this out. So started playing with that, and I started mixing that up with a lot of barefoot running, which I really think is important, for people that want to get into running. I think slowly you need to train the strength of your feet. And that doesn't mean going out and running 5 miles right away barefoot, but a little bit of walking on natural rocky terrain barefoot really does a lot to stimulate the tendons under there, your toes, and gets everything strong and healthy. Even when I ran California when I was 23, I first started off running 27 miles a day, and then I increased the miles to 38, and even some days I was over 50 miles in a single day. And every single day I made sure I ran at least 1 mile barefoot on the trail. and I felt like just getting my feet massaged on the rocks really prevented a lot of injuries and maintained good form. And I think, at 44, I still haven't had any like typical leg injuries that a lot of people have running, and I think that's because I've maintained a more natural style of running. And with that being said, I do feel like the natural style of running, it's harder to do because you're working more of your muscles, you're working more of your calves, your feet, everything. So it's this trade-off, like it's a balance. Like if I really want to go run super far, yeah, it is easier to throw on a slightly more supported shoe or slightly more supported sandal, but I love running in sandals. I just love the feel of it and love knowing that my body's getting all that movement and exercise.
So do you plan on going all the way up into Canada on this run this year?
Oh, you betcha. Yeah, we're going all the way. Yeah, that's the plan. I'm not stopping for nothing, other than to listen to Sarah sing some songs here and there. We'll come out and I'll film her at her concerts, and so there'll be kind of some in and outs weaving. But I plan to do every step of the trail to Canada.
That's cool. So you're going to go through Andy's neck of the woods at Mount Rainier, because the PCT goes right through the national park, doesn't it, Andy?
Yeah, it kind of gets on the eastern border, and it goes in between the park and then the Forest Service land. So if you're here, let me know.
Yeah.
And I'd love to meet you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
No, that would be some pretty country I would love to see, because I made it up to Crater Lake, and when I went to go see Andy at his graduation, I mean, Washington State is just beautiful, but unfortunately I couldn't get out in the woods up there, but we're going to do it again, Andy, I promise.
Yeah,
we're going to
and
do
we'll
it
also
again.
throw some bow fishing in there and some more awesome stuff.
Oh,
You
big
get to play
time.
with 30
Where can you bow fish up there? I got to know, because I run into legalities all the time with atlatl fishing. Cause I love.
So you can go bow fishing most places, and it depends on the type of fish you go for. Like I go for carp because the state doesn't want them here. So it's no limit, no season, no license, and bow fishing is open game for them. So you can spend all day and get 50 fish if you wanted to.
And I can use an atlatl up there. That's no problem.
I mean, I don't know how that would work, but I'm sure it's the game warden saw it. Just say it's like a bow without a string, and then the game warden will just be confused and walk away. I'm not too concerned about it.
Okay, all right. Well, let's go fishing when I get up there.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Now that would be a cool video with you guys bow fishing.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I want to see him use an atlatl, really, because I think using an atlatl with fish, because we have spears and then we have those elastic bands for them, but I think pretty gangster.
Yeah, even like in small streams, I'll just throw the atlatl, but in lakes, I'll attach a little cord and kind of have it loosely coiled around my hand, and just let that go and then pull it in. So yeah, I'd love to get out there and fish with you. That'd be fun. Let's do it.
Sick.
Hey Matt, we're talking about using the atlatl. There's a question from one of the folks watching right now. His name's Sambo. He says, "What is the worst thing that you've eaten in the wilderness, and why did you eat it?"
Oh man!
I got to throw you a curveball.
Well, I don't really like bugs very much, honestly. Like, I don't, especially when they're raw. Like, they're just all full of parasites and stuff. And it's like you get this little tiny bite of protein just for some show points. I don't quite get it. I don't know. I've eaten like crickets and cicadas when I cook them up, but yeah. See, I feel like when I'm on the shows, I'm a bit prompted to eat some bugs just because it gets some wow factor. And I'm like, I just want to go fishing or something. But yeah, tarantulas and all kinds of weird stuff. Yeah, that's probably the bulk of it. The bugs they're kind of weird. I had a skunk one time. It was pretty nasty. I think it was sick. You know, like it
Oh,
had clots in it.
now, with that said, I read somewhere that you made jerky out of coyote and raccoon. Is that true? Or
Oh
is that
yeah,
one of those tall tales?
that was probably a tall tale. I haven't made jerky out of coyotes. I mean, I've eaten lots of raccoon. That was definitely a little bit of embellishment. That article is funny actually because the writer came out and interviewed me at one point, and then I didn't hear anything about the article for like 2 years. And then all of a sudden I was visiting family in Southern California. I was in Barnes and Noble, and I'm flipping through Trail Runner magazine, and I'm like, oh, that's me. And there was a full 2-page spread, and yeah, it had that whole thing about jerky out of raccoon.
He's making beef jerky out of coyote down there in the bayou.
Oh yeah.
I make it here at the house. I love it. And
Yeah.
I was just, I had to ask that if that story was true, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I make tons of deer jerky. I love deer jerky, and that's amazing to me. It's such a good fuel. Deer is just, yeah, it's the best.
What's the most prominent deer you have, like in Utah where you're at? Mule deer, or is there any whitetails at elevation, or
It's all mule deer. Yeah,
is
all
it?
of it. Yeah, the big ears. They can hear really well.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's one back there that a photo I took.
Oh
So
yeah.
if we go into
Yeah.
backcountry, I'll take you on a trip. We'll go look at some of those.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's just outside your hills, San Diego, up
yeah,
there. Cool.
yeah. I was up near a place called Stonewall Mine in the Cuyamaca Rancho State Park. So
Mhm.
there's some big boys up there.
How
Uh,
about Laguna Mountains? You get some big ones?
you know, they had a fire back in 2007, and it really hurt the population out there. It's making a comeback, but surprisingly, the turkey population is just blown up out
Huh.
there because there's not a lot of predators other than coyotes and a few big cats, very big cats that are
Yeah.
out there. But there's a lot of turkeys, a ton of them.
Mhm.
Uh,
That's good eating. I like turkeys as well.
we got a question from a gentleman named Jeremiah Price. He's a viewer, and
Okay.
he wants to know what 5 medical plants do you like to use?
Hmm. Uh, Medical plants. My absolute top favorite. I'll just start with that since it's on my mind when you say that. Is prickly pear cactus. I think it's totally underrated, but it's amazing if you get any type of infections, which happen quite a bit, with cuts and things, and you take that pad and you cut out the spines on both sides and just get a big hunk of flesh and strap it on there for about an hour. And it's amazing. I've seen people with pretty big raised red infections. You take that off, and it's almost like the cactus just absorbed everything, and all of a sudden the wound's flat again, and it makes it heal up really nicely. And with that as well, prickly pear is really nice as an afterburn treatment, much like aloe, but it also is also good as a mild sunscreen. I find it to be like an SPF 5, somewhere in that range, maybe 6. I find if you use it frequently, you don't burn. You just get really dark, like an Indian. um, Other medical plants. I think for maintaining good health, I find when I'm out in the field for a long time, especially during the winter months or places don't have a lot of wild greens available, well, pine tea is just unbelievable. Like the nutrition that I think is packed in that tea when you make it right is outstanding. And the key really with pine is that you got to spend quite a bit of time pounding it up because you want to mash it up into a good pulp. And then once you do it, and when I say that, I would say you spend like 3 minutes or so pounding it up. Most people just kind of whack on it for a few seconds and think it's good. You get that a good pulp, and then once your water is boiled, you just drop the pulp in, take it off the fire right away, so you're not destroying all the vitamin C and stuff, and you have a really hearty vitamin drink right there. So I think that's pretty incredible.
Does it take a little while getting used to that taste of the pine needles, or is it pleasant?
Well,
That's something that's like pleasant for the palate, or is it kind of like guys that
it
sip
is.
whiskey? It's an acquired taste.
There's probably a subtleness of acquired taste, but the reality is that a lot of people that don't like it, it's because they didn't pound it up really well, because a lot of the bitterness is more on the outside. So when you pound it up, you're really getting the better juices that are on the inside of those needles. So that's really a big key to making the drink right.
Now, do you have any specific pines that you use? Like here, we got these Coulter pines, and Andy will attest to this. These pine cones are like alien size. They're like watermelon-shaped pine cones. Is there any like special pines that you would prefer over certain ones, or basically all pines in general, kind of?
They all have their unique flavors. I love the white pine when I'm up in the Sierras, and the lodgepole pine's pretty good too. Back home, all we have is ponderosa and pinyon pine, and I like both of them. They have different flavors. The pinion's maybe a little bit sweeter, while the ponderosa is a little bit more tangy. So depending on kind of your flavor there. But yeah, other plants that I really like medicinally, the big sagebrush, which is an artemisia or wormwood. I find that's really beneficial if I have some kind of parasite. You know, there's a couple times where I've got cryptosporidium from drinking from the creeks with cows, or you know, a mild case of Giardia. So I'll put that in my water. So anytime I'm drinking liquid, that's what's going into my mouth and it takes about 4 days, and it usually kicks whatever I got going in my system. Then I'll do a mild dosage for another 5-6 days.
So have you had Giardia like out in the bush, where say the time you stayed 6 months out in the bush? Did you at any time get Giardia out there that you had to kind of self-treat, or?
No. During that 6 months, I never had any issues with that. I got cryptosporidium, which is very similar to Giardia and often misdiagnosed as well, and that comes from the cows, and basically it's a similar parasite. It makes you explode out of both ends.
Oh yeah.
I had that actually once, a pretty bad case while I was on a month-long course teaching with students, and fortunately it was near the end of the course, and I put them on their 4-day solo, and right that night, like I just exploded out of both ends at the same time. So you can imagine. I hope that was a good visual for you.
Oh, I bet it was. I bet it was a good visual for whoever you're camping with. With that said, we'll move right along, Matt. Tactical Patriot, YouTube viewer, wants to ask, what is your favorite way of making and starting a fire?
The hand drill. I mean, yeah, without a doubt. You know, I've done a lot of different types of friction fires over the years, but the hand drill for me is the simplicity. You know, just being that it is 2 pieces of wood, and the way you do it. You know, just taking your hands together. It's just like saying a prayer, and you're just like, oh, come on, fire. You know, like just the motion. It's like, come on, that's like that's where we got that. You know, oh, gimme.
Any special tips or techniques that you use, kind of hand motions or anything when you do it that you can share that might help a viewer watching?
Yeah. So because you know, my specialty, you know, prior to TV, well, still now when I go out, it's been traveling really light. So I tried to get as short a hand drill as possible, working my technique to the point where I can do that. So what that means is using the floating technique, and that's basically where you're on top of the spindle, and as you're pushing down, you're pulling the other hand up. So some people call it the itsy bitsy spider. So it kind of, you know, it looks something like that, and basically you're getting pressure, but you're pulling the hand up for the next rotation. So a little bit of cycle motion. I think that's, if you're going to use a short spindle, learning that, one way to learn it is to start at the bottom of the spindle. This is for practice itself, and then see if you can keep pressure on it by going upwards. And if you could do that, then that means you're doing the technique correctly. And then go back to the bottom and try it again. And once you do that, then keeping pressure, just staying on the top will be no problem. The other tip for, I think, for folks that are wanting to learn hand drill in the beginning is just learning to keep your weight over the top of it the best you can, like kind of keeping it centered. And a lot of times, I will sit kind of with my legs out like this, but that's more of an advanced technique. Just getting your body over it and practicing a transition from the bottom up to the top smoothly without pulling it out of the hearth is really important.
So a lot of folks get hot spots, and I know I would probably get blisters like crazy. Any tips on how to not get blisters? Applying a certain amount of pressure, or?
No, the only way to prevent blisters is consistency. Like if you realize that you're not out in the field and you're not doing hand drills enough, and you jump back in, you're going to get blisters. So one thing, like if I'm traveling a lot and I haven't got in the bush as much as I'd like, sometimes I'll just take pencils or something, anything round, and keep that motion going, because you got to keep your hands trained. Otherwise, you will definitely get blisters when you do it.
Also the bruising too.
So yeah, definitely you can get a little bit sore there. Sometimes when I'm feeling really motivated, I would just keep a stick around, just a piece of willow that I wasn't necessarily going to start a fire with, and just grind it into some wood when I got a free moment.
With that, now you've traveled all over the globe. You've been in just about every environment that a person could be dropped in. A lot of folks are curious how you keep your knife sharp and how you maintain them when you're in all these diverse environments out there.
Yeah. Well, I'll start with my backyard when I'm out in the canyons out in Utah. One of my favorite available ways to sharpen a knife, and it's out there everywhere, is the smooth quartzite cobbles on the river, and I can find sharpnesses all the way down to shaving. It's pretty amazing. Find coarsenesses all the way down to making a shaving steel. And I'll just take out the knife, and basically, sorry to wave this knife in front of me. Take a knife and I just like a circular motion, maintaining the edge. A lot of beginners, as you know, when they sharpen, they tend to move the edge all around. Just keeping it consistent is really important on both sides. And as it gets sharper and sharper, just a few strokes on each side is definitely a key there. If I know I'm going into an environment that doesn't have a proper stone that I can sharpen with, I'll just bring a sharpening stone. Honestly, it doesn't matter what it is. Could be a diamond rod or just a regular Arkansas stone, just something to get an edge on there.
Do you use a strop on any of your knives?
Sometimes, yeah. Like more on carving knives. My big chopping knives, I don't always take it down that far. Actually, I do travel with a ceramic stone that's very fine, and that actually gets an edge that I can shave with. So yeah, I do believe the strop is good. It's a nice technique, but I just don't use it that much unless I'm specifically doing a carving or a kitchen knife.
So the knife that you just showed, right? That's the new one that just came out this year from Condor. The primitive bush knife, but that's the 1075 high carbon steel version, right?
That is, yeah. So it's got the Micarta handle on it. Yeah, I think you can see that. And it's it's two-tone there, so there's a little bit of artistic appeal. Still has a skeletonized handle, so it's a very lightweight knife. And I really like this knife. I think visually it's aesthetic for me. It feels like something a primitive person would like. In fact, when I travel, a lot of native people really like this knife. They always want to get their hands on it and test it out. And the sheath design is something that this design sheath I've been making for a long time on knives this size, because I like the way that it can tucked behind my belt on my side or on my back side, and I can still run with it, and I don't notice it flapping around.
Now, do you put any, what sort of preservative do you put on the blade? Like 1075 is going to obviously corrode if you're out there and you're trail running and it gets wet or it rains, or do you put any special lubricant on the blade to help protect it, at least the cutting edge, to keep it from corroding?
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, I don't mind a little bit of rust. Sometimes I'll just let the knife rust for a week or something. If I'm out even in a jungle environment or wet environment, and then I'll take some fine grit sand and carefully rub that into the blade itself, not the edge, because you don't want to cut yourself, obviously, but rub that in to clean it back out. And then if I have some kind of animal fat, I'll rub that in. And a lot of times when I'm traveling, I carry jojoba oil, which is a desert nut seed oil. Nice thing about jojoba is it has practically an inexhaustible shelf life, and rodents aren't attracted to chewing on it. So I like it on wood and stuff like that, and I'll put it on my blade as well.
So if you must have had problems in the past then with if putting some sort of preservative on, then especially in the Southwest, there's got to be pack rats, field mice, and stuff getting in your gear all the time. How do you keep stuff like that out of your kit to keep it still in working?
Yeah, anytime I'm using an animal fat or something like that on the Southwest, I'll also take a bunch of sagebrush and I'll rub that into the wood or the item as well. And that bitterness, I find that both ants and pack rats don't like that so much.
Hey, a YouTuber named 47KCR is wondering, talking about your knife just a little bit, about how you came about the handle design and just the overall features of your blade.
Yeah, so originally I bought some people know the backstory, but I bought the Jungle Condor Bowie knife. It had a big rubber handle on it, and it was quite a bit longer. And I took this knife when I went to Hawaii, and I lived out in the jungles out there for about 3 weeks, living mostly off the land. I brought 2 pounds of rice in and ate 1 pound. The rest of it all came from the land itself. And I really liked that knife. I liked the fact that it was kind of a mix of a carbon stainless steel, so it was good for that wet environment. But it was too long for me, and it seemed like it had an unnecessary scooped up point that was a little bit fragile. So I took the blade when I got back home, and I ended up grinding it down, giving it this taper, so it still had this nice slight curve here. But I felt like it still, when you swung it, it still had a lot of chopping power, even if it connected closer to the tip. But it still had a little bit of punching power if you had to punch through like car tire or some thick fabric or something like that. This one actually doesn't have the bevel on it, but the one that's available to the market has a nice little edge there, which does give it that push through power if you need to get through something thick pushing through. And
here's the one with the bevel on it, if folks are wondering about. But it's a false edge on top, so it's kind of like an awl almost.
Yeah. And then the knife too it's actually very lightweight, which is also important to me. The knife commercially available is under a pound still, so I don't really notice it much on my waist, which is also very, very important in the design feature of it. And,
I like the fact that they went with your new version with the Micarta scales as opposed to the walnut. I think as your hands get wet, whether it's bloody or wet or whatever, the hands just work better with Micarta than the wood.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love the traditional feel of the wood, but I'm a huge fan of Micarta whenever it's available. This is what I prefer on my knife. I just think I feel like for me that doesn't take too much away from the primitive appeal of this knife. I still think it has a nice feel and look to it.
Now, you also have two carving knives that we talked about at SHOT Show. Um, do you have them with you today that you can talk about?
I do. In fact, actually, it's funny. I don't have this. I don't have this year's sheath design, the 2016, but I have the sheath design I'm working on for next year. I guess I'll give you a sneak peek, but just know that it may change. So, and Condor might be upset with me for showing this off, but I'm gonna show it off.
Condor will get over it. See, we got an exclusive here tonight.
True
So,
flower
so when I was on, let me give you a quick backstory. When I was on Live Free or Die, I spent a couple months kind of on a little walkabout, and I ended up using the Canyon Carver along with another knife that used to be a machete as well that I modified. So we're also designing that. So amazing, probably the best knife I've designed with Condor. But the new sheath design that I started using with the Canyon Carver, I really like. I still feel like I can run with it, and it basically is this style. So if you can see there, you run your belt, so it runs at a diagonal. So once again, it doesn't flap around on your waist. And I was worried when I first started using it that I have some issues with it flying out, but it never did. It actually, with the belt pinching around, it held in very nicely. It drew out very easily.
I like that.
So that's the sheath that we're working on for the following year. So that's up and coming. So this is called the Canyon Carver, and that's a 3-inch blade that's got a point. I think it's a fairly common bushcraft profile. The handle's a little bit shorter, and for some people it might only fit 3 digits. I can kind of get my pinky around the backside, and I wanted a smaller knife because I feel like if you're in the bush, a big knife's good for chopping, but something that's big will still do a heck of a carving job. And then there's this classic carving shape, kind of a wood chip carving style where blades turn down a little bit. So that's a nice knife just for a 2.5-inch blade, and you can draw with it if you want to carve out something on a flat surface, kind of a pullback system there. And they're both really nice knives. I've field tested both these quite a bit.
Did you use any of those when you were making your Osage bow?
I did, yeah. I actually used I don't have it with me right now, but I also have the Bush machete, which is a little bit bigger. I think I made that an 18-inch blade, and that was the primary tool that I used to make the bow. I used that to chop it out. I used it to basically the backside, the spine right here. I used that as a shave. By drawing it, I wrapped the handle like this and pulled it towards me. And also, I ended up putting a stick on it, and I did a lot of draw knife work with it too. I built a handle on the other side, so that actually came into play quite a bit.
See, that's kind of cool because when we were at SHOT Show, everybody was asking me about what that hole was, and we said it was the eye of the condor. And you made a statement. You said you could put a stick in there and use it also as kind of like a draw knife. So that's kind of cool that you did that.
Yeah. So what you could do is you could take a stick and an eye bolt. That would be the more technical way to do that. What I did is I took a piece of oak branch that had a knot, and basically put a split through that, and then ran that split over the end of the knife. And I cranked down on that, so it created a handle really simply and quickly, and used that as a draw pull.
So did you make your own arrows as well?
I did. Yeah.
What'd you use for shafts?
So initially when I came out, I had some arrows that were already made up. I didn't make them. They were cane shafts. They had some feather fletching on them and some kind of cheap points on there. And I used those for a while, and then eventually I made my own arrows out of. I had some more cane, and I made them from scratch from turkey feathers, and I put a couple stone points on, a couple trade points on those, and Yeah, I guess I can't really give away. I don't think there's too much of that that's been aired yet. But just know that like some of the hunting sequences along the way for Live for Your Die evolved, and so did the tools and things during the time I was out on the wander.
Cool. Now, obviously wood. Did you have a hard time shaping these shafts to where they're going to be straight? And imagine making a bow with trying to get the right spine weight to get that archer's paradox. Um,
Yeah.
did you ever have an issue with that, or?
Oh, there's always an issue with that. You know, when you're shooting carbon, you can just go ahead and whack off, you know, a dozen arrows at a time. They're all gonna fly the same. But when you're dealing with primitive arrows, you use, you know, to the best of your skill, you're trying to get those spines to match, but they
Right.
never match absolutely precisely. So what I find is helpful for me is I have a number of arrows that are kind of, they're numbered. So I have my top flying arrow, you know, and that's the one that always takes the first shot. Then I have the next flying arrow, and I remember its subtle differences. Maybe it hits a half an inch to the left or right or whatever. And you kind of have to calculate that a little bit in your brain. It kind of gets confusing, but you know, the reality is that two arrows should make the shot. You know, when you're hunting, if they don't, then you're gonna be scrambling. I mean, it happens sometimes. But
So
you know,
a quick atlatl question, since you guys might go bow fishing, and this guy over here is extremely jealous, right? Because I'll be stuck down here in SoCal. But unless I can sneak away for a while, which is possible. What sort of wood are you using for like atlatl darts? Because that's a pretty long arrow. And
absolutely.
how do you shape that to keep it straight enough to fly? Because you're pretty accurate with that darn thing.
Yeah, so the deal with I mean, there's a lot of things that make good darts. When I go to Arizona, my favorite is the rundo, the cane down there that grows along creek sides. It's like a kind of a thin-walled bamboo that's really nice. That's my favorite material that I've harvested around my area. I use willow a lot. Actually, the river willow, which people sort of dog on for arrows, it's not bad if you take it right from the start. You know, I'll get like 7-foot shaft, a little bit bigger than a half an inch diameter on the end, actually probably close to 3/4, and it tapers. And then I'll take the bark off right away, immediately, because that particular wood doesn't tend to check when it dries. I'll get a bundle of those. I'll bundle them together. And then the next day, some of that moisture is dried out of that, and I'll start straightening them. And every day I straighten them a little bit more. And I find that if I straighten them as they're drying, they tend to stay straighter more than if I just fire straighten them at the end. So that's kind of a cool trick with that. And then I've made darts out of serviceberry. I really like if I find the right one. I made darts out of Russian olive. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff makes good darts, but those are some of my top favorites. I am actually in the process. A buddy and I we're trying to create a packable dart that does use a little bit higher tech materials because it's a breakdown. It's going to come apart into 3 pieces. So we're going to use a carbon shaft for that. So for people that are really interested in a survival style atlatl kit that they could pack, I think this will be pretty cool. We're gonna pattern it after the design of atlatl that I use quite a bit. You know, this one has 2 finger holes. We have a technique that's going to make this adjustable without compensating the aesthetics or function. And I'll have stones we're working on. We'd like to get regular stones. So there's going to be a mixture of primitive design, but with some modern materials. So I think people really dig this kit when it comes out. Probably going to be a couple more months. We're still in the process of working on it. It'll have a fishing tip connected to it, so people can atlatl fish, but it'll be this package. You know, the dart will be about as long as the atlatl, so you can pack it all in one little package.
That's pretty cool. Awesome. Andy, we're going to have to go to your secret spot where you take your dog Zip. We'll take Matt up there with his atlatls, and we'll test him out there. Because he he's got some bow fishing videos where he's getting carp like crazy, but his dog jumps in there after the carp as well. So he has a fun time.
Well, you're gonna have to show me how to use the atlatl better, because I have one and I'm terrible at it.
Yeah,
admittedly.
absolutely.
But it's a fun time. I mean, like, I made it from scratch and everything, and just never really got around to getting good at it. Mainly because archery ranges, they don't appreciate the atlatl.
Yeah.
So practice at
a little bit bigger shaft. I can understand that. You get good at it. I'll show you some tips and tricks. You know, a lot of times the atlatl design itself is could be the spur, the way that's designed, in conjunction to the cup on the atlatl dart. That has to be really precise. And if it's not, it could release a little bit funny.
Rock and roll. Yeah, we're gonna have fun if you stop by for a while in Washington.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Got something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Not that the trails have been amazing every day, but yeah, just added bonus there.
Yeah, the trails are pretty nice. We got a really good trails crew, at least here in the Rainier section.
Yeah.
And if you're a dog lover, you're gonna love his channel sidekick Zip. He's a cool dog. I love that dog.
Yeah. Now we have Brindy too now, who we adopted when I was in the academy, and she's a little sweetheart too. But, you know, she's also a big dog that can run real fast, so she kind of scares people sometimes.
Hey, I had a viewer throw out a question, Matt. Says, can you talk a bit about some of the physical and mental joys and struggles of living in the wilderness?
Yeah. Yeah, how to answer that. It's, you know, like the honest truth is, like, I started doing, I mean, I've done TV on and off behind the scenes for quite some time now, doing a little bit of consulting here and there, but I didn't really jump on the camera until about 4 years ago. So my life it's totally different now. Like, for me, like, I do still spend that time connecting with the land, but now I am connected more to what other people have. You know, I do have a cell phone, and I have ways to communicate, and a vehicle, and all that stuff that I didn't really have before. So I guess to answer that question properly, I'd have to revert to, you know, what it was prior to 4 years, and I would say struggles are the biggest things that I found at that time was just feeling like an outcast, because it was like you're doing something that's completely different from the norm. So a lot of people are going to look at it like there's something wrong with you, that you don't want to just join in with what everybody else is doing. And the loneliness is super hard. And when you combine loneliness with aching hunger, you know, or freezing cold nights, you know, and it's like, you know, somebody can handle one of those at one time, but when they all come together, it's kind of brutal, honestly. But I'm grateful for those times, and I'm still grateful for that time, because every time I go back to that space, it really puts things into perspective of how important you know, my friends are, and just how important it is to be grateful for the little things that you get. And I think that's the big thing. You know, it's kind of the glass is half full syndrome. You gotta, survival is no different. You gotta really look at it like that, and really look at what you have when you're out in a survival situation, rather than what you don't have. And if you don't have it, figure out a way to fix it. Don't dwell on the fact that you don't have it, but try to make it better.
So one of the questions were, when you lived 6 months out in the bush, what were some of the physical effects in regards to eating meals and living the hunter-gatherer lifestyle? I know that, like, on the History Channel has their show Alone, and you see these guys, they're basically, after like the first week, they're starting to starve. You were out there 6 months without coming back in to civilization. what did you do to kind of one maintain fitness and maintain your health in regards to eating?
Yeah. Well, for me, like you know, it wasn't like going into naked and afraid where I didn't have anything. I was like, okay, I'm going out for 6 months, and I'm gonna go out on winter solstice, which is like the hardest time of year just to go out into the bush with nothing, right? So I took a big Duluth canvas backpack, and I shoved everything I could in that. You know, I probably took like 35 pounds of dry food. You know, I had rice, lentils, some nuts, olive oil, salt, some things to get me through the winter, and that really helped because for me, like, if I had gone out in the fall, you know, maybe I would have had a chance to gather some of that food, acorns, pine nuts, dried some meat and stuff. But going out in the middle of winter, you know, I had to have some kind of supply to start with personally. Maybe there's some other kind of badass that can get away with that, not having that. But so I went out and I made a camp for a while, and during the wintertime, I just stayed there for a couple months. So it did have that alone vibe, I guess, to it maybe that, you know, some people might see. And during that time, I still fished and I trapped. I was still able to get some rabbits. Squirrels were kind of hibernating. I was able to get trout and different things of that sort. There were some roots available too. There's a plant called spiderwort, which was pretty plentiful, and I was doing my pine needle tea every single morning, and just watching my rations dwindle away until springtime. But you know, the winter for me was I just hunkered down, enjoyed the time, did a lot of crafts. I worked on skins, made bags, fine-tuned my hunting skills, getting ready for spring. Really worked hard on the atlatl and kind of played around with the bosun as well. By the time spring came, I felt, for one, I ate so little, I slowed down my metabolism to the point where I did feel more efficient. There was a period where my body would crash pretty hard. I actually, you know, if it was a TV show, I probably would have hit the button at that point if I was on alone, because I felt like I was dying. Honestly, my weight had dropped substantially. When I came out, I was about 100, I'm in the low 130s.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm a 170-pound guy right now, so I give you a perspective on
Yeah.
that is. And I basically, I was so weak. I was sleeping like 17 hours a day, and those few hours that I was awake, I could barely get myself off the ground. It was like the struggle. I just felt so heavy. I was pushing myself, and I just felt like at that time I wanted to get through it, but I also was a bit nervous what was going on. And after 3 weeks of that, all of a sudden I just felt great again. It was kind of bizarre. Like I was like, oh, you know, I was super skinny. You could see all my ribs, but I had you know, it felt like my body became much more efficient with the food that I gathered and things. I felt like I broke through some kind of barrier.
Yeah, I imagine that aspect, you know, a lot of folks are addicted to caffeine, the high fructose corn syrup, sugar junkies and stuff. That's going to take them out probably more than a bear, a cougar, or whatever out in the woods. Just the withdrawals of
Yeah.
just living the lifestyle of processed food lifestyle that most of us live now,
Yeah, absolutely.
unfortunately. And did you notice a difference, like after a few weeks of you were probably eating clean before you even started getting in the woods, but still when you're out there, I mean, you're really eating clean then. Did you start feeling any of the effects like withdrawals of eating processed foods and things like that?
Yeah, the biggest thing for, you know, the hunter-gatherer diet is super low in carbohydrates and sugars, you know, but it is very dense in minerals when you eat all those wild greens, and it's very rich in the proteins too, because you're getting those clean wild animals and wild fats. So it's the shift. We're so used to eating just like instant fuel, you know, which is in the form of sugar or
Yeah.
carbohydrates, that when you put your body back into those high minerals, high protein, it's a big shock. My recommendation, and and I live almost solely by this. There's maybe very subtle times I fudge by it. Stay completely away from any white sugar, refined sugars, because they're very addictive, and in long term, if they don't cause diabetes, when you get out in the field, you're just not going to have a very stable blood system. You're going to feel a crash. And if you get used to not eating those instant gratification fuels, you'll be better off when you are in those wilderness situations.
Oh yeah, if you have a vice, you're gonna notice it real quick.
Yeah,
Probably
absolutely.
the first 12 to 24 hours. I'm sure on some of these shows, some of the crew members probably felt some of the vices. If they're not able to get the Rockstar drink or Monster drink or whatever, they're probably starting to shake and go crazy, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're into about an hour now. I don't know how much time you have, but I know we're both thankful and grateful that you've taken the time out of your busy schedule on the trail. If you want to talk a little bit about your GoFundMe, your YouTube channel, and how folks can follow your travels, and we'll let them know a little bit more info about that.
Yes. So with this project, Sarah and I, we just took it up on a whim. We're like, let's go ahead and independently film and document this and just see what rolls. And we just pooled some of our funds and resources together right away, and we're still working on trying to put the camera equipment together and everything. And we'd like to see if people are genuinely interested in an adventure that is coming direct, unedited through television resource, but coming straight from us to the viewer. And we plan to teach as much as we can and document stuff in the most real format possible. And by being smaller, just the two of us, I think it actually makes a good opportunity to capture something very real and dynamic. So the reason we put up the GoFundMe is that we're hoping people will help us back this up, because we are putting a lot of energy into the documentation aspect, the filming process. We'll actually have some video that we're going to be downloading on our YouTube channel called On the Trail with Matt and Sarah, and we'll be putting that out in the next 24 hours. It'll be kind of the first start of our journey, and then it's going to just keep building from there over the next 6 weeks. So I think it's going to be a great opportunity, and we'd like to see how many people are really interested in this. Otherwise, I mean, I love to share things, but it is a lot of work, the documentation process. So if people aren't truly interested, we'll just go do cool stuff by ourselves. When we're not filming TV.
Nobody knows better than Andy and I how much the sweat equity, the time, the gear to produce a video. It is a labor of love. Are you shooting? Are you making this into like a feature documentary, or are you just going to solely upload it on YouTube and maybe Facebook?
Right now we're focused on solely YouTube, Facebook, and we'll see where it goes. And that's the cool thing about it. We haven't pitched it to anybody, like in terms of networks or well, it's not totally true, but it's mostly true. But basically, we want to do this project our way and deliver it to the viewers in a way that we think they'll really like. So we just picked it up and we're doing it, without any backing of any TV networks or anything.
That's what I love about the medium that we do, is that there's no middleman involved telling us how to do the production that we do, and that's pretty cool. I love the idea of what you're doing. I mean, if I had time, I'd be camping out with Andy and we'd be filming stuff, because his videography skills are just mind-blowing, how cool he can film. But
absolutely. I think it's super cool to pick up projects like this independently, and I'm learning a lot. And And I will say, you know, it's just a different way of going about it, because there's a lot of aspects I really have enjoyed about working with the networks and with my production team, and you know, it becomes family. It's really nice, but this is cool, and I'm learning a lot from it, and I hope that the viewers will back what we're doing, and so we can deliver it in a very clean, professional format.
Well, make sure to get a lot of B-roll so we can see some really cool places, because I know the PCT, every turn in the trail is like an oh my gosh moment. It's just breathtaking. And I know up where Andy is, it's just got to be like God's country up there. And Mount Rainier. I'm giving you a shameless plug, Andy.
I've pretty much hiked every single, almost the whole Wonderland Trail just on patrols. So I've really gotten to see, different weather, different sides of the mountain, and it's pretty incredible, because what most people see is only a few days, unfortunately. They don't get to spend, 6 months here like I do. So, it's a blessing, I'd say.
Well, Matt, that's what's cool about what you and Sarah are doing, because 98% of the people out there aren't going to get any farther than a mile and a half from a trailhead.
Yeah.
And you're out there on the trail seeing things that 99% of the general public is not going to see. And like Andy said it too, he's seeing things that 99% of the people up there in Washington State aren't going to see. So that's cool. So my call out to the viewer out there is to get off your butt, support these programs, right, for good quality video and entertainment, and great things are going to happen. I mean, a gentleman's time is worth something, and when he's out there doing the sweat equity, running trails, filming, Sarah's out there performing concerts and stuff, I mean, they're doing what they love to do, but like everything, it takes a little money to get things going, and that's what's cool about a GoFundMe project, is that the viewer is able to get behind these projects and to see great things happen when you plant little seeds along the way. So that's really cool, Matt, that you're doing that and that you're sharing that with us. I know that you also, because I watch your channel all the time, man, I'm like a lurker on your channel, that you actually sing pretty good. And Sarah, I heard her singing before the show starts. I know she sings really good.
Oh, yeah.
So she's making you look good, but I'm just kidding. But
Sarah's it's a very special voice.
You need to do more singing, Matt, because you got a good voice, and you play flute really good.
Oh, thank you. I'll work on it. But yeah, Sarah's like in terms of musicians, like she's top notch. Like she has amazing improv skills. Her songwriting skills are just it's amazing the way, to me, she can compose something really quickly. Because for me, like I have to wait like 2 months before a song like just comes to me. But for Sarah, they're just like, we're just driving along, and she learned the ukulele in a couple days, and she's playing the song on the trail, and yeah, it's pretty inspirational.
See, some people are blessed like that. I've taken guitar lessons and all that stuff, and I'm telling you, God does not want me to know how to play guitar, because I ruin it, and that's with lessons. But have you ever thought about uploading anything on iTunes or stuff like that also as a way to help fund the project? Maybe some of the songs that you've done, put them on iTunes?
It's interesting. I'm honestly, I'm really learning about this sort of social media stuff the past month or two. I really didn't know anything about it before, so that's a good suggestion.
See, I'm hitting with it. So if you folks watch this video after the live show, put it in the comments below that you want to hear Matt Graham's music on iTunes. Let him know. And then I'll message him and say, hey, Matt, you got hundreds of people want to hear your songs, dude.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, my songs are still in the sappy genre, but I'm working on getting the upbeat stuff going on. So. Well,
that's cool. You're doing what you love, so props out to that. We're coming up on an hour and 15 minutes. If you boys want to wind down and wrap it up, Andy, you got any final thoughts? Any questions, concerns, shout outs?
Well, I haven't been talking very much because I've just been enjoying hearing Matt speak about all these things because I'm learning a lot of things too. And I feel like, you know, sitting here and listening to him is a lot like going to like a rabbit stick or some sort of rendezvous where you just get to learn from a bunch of people. And it's pretty cool. I think it's awesome that you guys were able to connect, and I'm really glad that I was able to be here, if only in spirit. And yeah, really enjoyed it.
Cool. I'm looking forward to fishing with you, Andy.
Well,
yeah, it'd be awesome. Although I am going to be in West Virginia after next week for a week, but then I'll be back.
Okay. All right. I'll hit you up when you get back.
Yeah.
Well, you're in Central Washington State, so it's gonna take a little bit for Matt to get there. So.
Yeah. No, we're.
If he puts his mind to it, he'll be here within short order.
Well, no, you gotta stop and smell the roses and enjoy this run this time.
Yeah, no, it's a different ball game. You know, when I ran it when I was 23, I ran the length of California up to Sayad Valley, which is about 1,700 miles in 58 days. And at the time, unofficially, that was the fastest it had been done self-supported. There are people that later on, did sort of vehicle support with the mindset that they're going to break the record, and there's all kinds of publicized records. So, but point being, I enjoyed the process the first time, but just happened to do it quite quickly, very fast. But this for me is coming back at 44. I'm not quite as fit as I was at 23. So some of that's about getting back in shape and also just the process of it. Filming is going to take half that time away, and also coming out for Sarah's concert is going to take a bunch of time. So we're even though I'm running, we're kind of on the slow track to make sure that it's documented really well.
See, that's awesome. Slow and steady wins the race.
That's awesome.
Every time. I look forward to vicariously living through your travels on social media and on YouTube. And if you need any help getting word out, I mean, both Andy and I are here for you to help get the word out on concert information or stuff that you got going on. So, we're here to help you and support you in your travels running the PCT. With that, I am so grateful that you came on tonight. It's been an honor and a privilege to sit down and spend some time with you. I just love picking your brain about stuff. It's just, we had an awesome time. And I know the viewers out there, they've been putting in the comments that they really enjoyed the show too. So hopefully we can have you on again, maybe after you've finished your trip and you got the final project done, and we can talk about that, and maybe I can talk you into doing a documentary and we can watch a feature film of you running it. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. But with that, I thank you so much for joining us tonight, and I look forward to seeing you out on the trails, having a safe trip.
Thanks, John. Yeah, much appreciated. And yeah, definitely a pleasure to sit down and converse with you. Yeah, I think we'll keep growing with that.
With that, folks. Oh, I'm sorry, Matt. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, I was talking about sobby stuff, like creating a relationship together. And I was trying to get out some tears,
There we go. We got the bromance going here with Andy. My wife's already accused me of bromance with Andy, so. With that, folks, we're going to wrap up the live show for tonight, but we will be posting this on the channel for replay. I'll put it on all my social media, and we'll see you folks out there on the trail. So be safe and have a good night, folks.